Oh, whoa. Hold on. Why is my thing? You know, I think we should do.
I
We should
think
have
we're
like,
supposed to lead with good morning.
good
Welcome
morning.
to Max Ordinate Academy. Now, go ahead and say, what is it we're supposed to do?
I was just thinking we should have like a show and tell, right?
Show and tell.
Like people like to see shiny things sometimes. I feel like we should do like a rifle of the day or like a scope of the day or something.
I
I
feel
don't know.
like
I'm just
every day they see you, they get to see something new and shiny. Like there's a
there's
piece,
always
there's a piece missing off your wall, and now there's a new rifle and a tripod,
well,
a two vetch
well,
tripod.
they
The
don't see the piece missing off the wall because you always crop it out.
That's true. Bitcoin price has gone up, as I can see from your clock. It's 27,000 right now, which is going the
Yeah, but
wrong direction. I was waiting to buy, and it's got to go back down. Come
be
back
patient.
down.
Be patient. I see a 19 to 22 if the data is showing that it's going to come down pretty hard, which is good. And if it doesn't, then whatever. It's just trading in a fucking channel right now. But
It is good. That means
um,
a brokey like me can actually get in on that shit and feel like I can make something off
you
of this.
know,
Yeah.
you need to buy some ADA and just hold it.
If you would have talked me into this
Anyhow, we're gonna
way
do show
back
and tell next week. We'll do show and tell.
next week, okay,
Oh,
next week, show and tell. I will figure something out for show and tell, but I'll be
right.
home on Saturday. So like,
Oh shit, that's right.
yeah,
We'll have lots of show and tell then, because
lots
all
of
your
show
cool
and
shit's
tell.
here.
I know. Wait
All
until I
right.
dye your
Can
pool
you
red.
just can you check out one of your rifles there and bring it on the plane for show and tell here?
I will
Probably not.
try. I will. If I don't make it home, you'll know it's because I tried and it didn't work.
Oh,
So
you're gonna fail successfully. I can see it now.
I will do everything in my power. So today's gonna be a quick episode. Got started a little late. Had to get my run in, stretch, get this whole body working, dude. It's just every day it's taking longer to get going. But I'm interested to hear about this ice bath. You said
Yes. So let me
it's
tell you, I've been
three
doing my ice bath
degrees
every day.
whooping your ass.
It is. So here's, but I, okay. So I'm going to cut myself a little bit of slack because I have a lot of, I'm going to say sensitive
Is that
skin,
a
but
thing that
I,
you can do? Can you cut yourself slack?
I don't want to, yeah, I'm going to cut myself a little bit of slack. So
Okay.
my, I've got nerve pain issues, right? So what typically happens is I can get in, dude, I'm up to my fucking chest and it's phenomenal. I'm not cold. I'm loving it. What happens is my feet start getting so cold that the they cramp and it's like it's not fixable. So I have to get out. So what I'm seeing is that a lot of people that have that same exact issue, they just put on fucking booties. So I have my like 2.5 mil neoprene, my scuba fucking booties and gloves. Dude, I hop in. I'm in there at 37 degrees. I'm in there for 3 minutes. It's warm and cozy, and I'm out.
Isn't wait,
Fantastic.
isn't
So
the point that you're cold? Isn't that the point?
it is. So I'm freezing cold, but the worst thing you can do for an ice bath is do it so cold that your body reacts negatively.
Mm.
So you need to be freezing cold, but you have to be able to tolerate it. You know, for me, I still have to get in. I still have to do my breathing. I still have to. I mean, it's 37 fucking degrees. I still have to do my thing, but at the point where my feet cramp or my legs cramp up so bad that I physically can't get out of the ice bath, that's dangerous. So it's just for me, it'll get better over time. But dude,
You
just
know,
throwing those little toe booties on, it's
you know that
phenomenal. Love it.
scene? I'm trying to think of what Jurassic Park it was. I think it was like Jurassic World, the second one, where like the volcano's exploding and they're trying to get the dinosaurs off the island. Anyways, you got Chris Pratt, right? He gets hit with one of them tranquilizer darts, and the lava starts to come, and
Mm-hmm.
he's laying there and he's trying to throw his body over this log. I'm just imagining that's how you're trying to get out of this
Dude,
ice bath when you're
let me
laying
tell
there
you.
frozen.
Let me tell you. The first time was it last week. I crawl out of it. You know, I jump out. I'm like, okay, I can't do it. It's like a minute and a half in. I'm like, this is killing me. I jump out and I'm standing there and my legs are just giving out. I'm like, oh, this can't be good. But anyhow, it's crazy. Like I don't know if you have or if you've ice bathed, but it's such a game changer. Like when I'm out after the workout, after just a hard day of labor out in the fucking yard shoveling holes, um, I hop in and it just kind of resets me, and it's pretty crazy. Like I'm super new to it, but I'm loving it so far, and I'm trying to do it first thing in the morning. But then I'm like, well, I don't want to do it twice a day, so I did it in the morning, first thing at like 6 a.m. I hop in. I'm like, this is kind of awful, but it's like it's my first like success for the day. I did my ice bath, but I actually like it post workout. So I'm going to kind of probably keep doing that.
Okay. Okay. So I found that
Pretty
scene.
excited about it.
Are you now?
Oh,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
I'm going to show you what's up. This is how I envision you. Oh shit. Let me figure this out here, dude. You know, I always have problems. There we go. Perfect. So this is how I envision you with your frozen legs, not being able to get out of your
It's
ice
just my
bath,
toes. It's my little toesies.
and you're trying to figure it out, and you're like, here we go, and I'm just gonna do this, right? So look,
Yeah,
there it is.
that is 100% me.
Okay, so here it is, ice bath. You're like, I gotta get out. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's me. That's me trying to roll out of my ice bath.
That's it right there, dude. Yes.
That is funny. Well, when you get here Saturday, we're gonna have a little ice bath challenge, and I'm gonna make you sit in that thing.
Perfect. I can't wait. Can't wait. So
Pretty dope.
today's episode.
But see, here's the thing though. Before we get to that, so you're in the water a lot. You dive, so your body's kind of conditioned to that shit already. I mean, and obviously you're wearing gear, but your body's sort of conditioned to that freezing cold water, even though it's not that freezing out there. So I think you'll probably do fine.
Yeah, I don't know about that, dude. Like, I am, I think I've gained like a little bit of muscle with this workout routine, which we are going to talk about, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
the changes my body have gone through has been pretty crazy. But on top of the muscle gain, I've put on probably another 1% of body fat or something like that, right? So maybe I'm at like 10% right now. And
Okay.
it's not a lot. I still freeze in the water. I mean, the water temperature,
Same.
dude, other people could be wearing like no wetsuit or a 3 mil. And I'm like, let me get that 7 mil, yo. Like, nipples are cold, body's frozen. Like, I just get destroyed by cold water. And I don't know.
Yeah, my partner, my old free dive partner, he wears a 3.5 suit. And I'm like, how the fuck do you just wear a 3.5? Like I literally couldn't get in the water with a 3.5 out here because you know how cold it is.
Oh yeah, California
out,
super cold water
out this way. It's insane. So yeah, I get cold and I take very little buoyancy. I just sink like a fucking rock for some reason.
Yeah, so do I.
I
When
feel
I'm
like I can
diving,
barely swim. So
no weight. I have no weight on my body. I just like a rock, dude, straight to the bottom.
yeah, it's fucking nuts. Anyhow, okay, what are we talking about today?
All right, so it's gonna be a little bit of a quicker episode, probably 15 minutes, and we're gonna discuss movers. And this, I posted a couple snippets of some mover stuff that we're doing in the Urban Sniper course, and I was talking about how difficult it is to hit these things, right? And a comment that I said was, if you're ever in a gunfight, it's important that you run laterally. And somebody said, can you explain what laterally means? And I'm like, well, if you think about
There's
it,
your first problem.
like how fast can you run forward? When you think about like your elevation and your trajectory, like the projectile itself, right? What do you think? A person, let's say a non-Olympic sprinter, maybe just a decent athlete, a person can run, 100 yards in 10 seconds, roughly, approximately. Like that's
Yeah.
a pretty fast athlete if we're being
Yeah.
real. Like that's like,
Yeah.
just shy of a Usain Bolt. But let's say 10 seconds, 100 yards. So that's 1 second per 10 yards, right? So if you got a person that is at 300 yards or 400 yards, let's say 400, and they're running full sprint towards you, well, it doesn't take your bullet a full second to get there. So they'll maybe cover 5 yards by the time your projectile has left the muzzle and reached that person. There's no dope change for 5 yards. I'm sorry. Like, you don't have to do anything different. Like, oh, the guy's running towards me. Let me hold low. Like, that's not how it works, right? He's only covered 5 yards. You're still going to hit him in the chest or wherever you're aiming. So when you talk about lateral movement, now it's a whole different ball game, right? Because now you have to aim into the future. It's a cool little fucking quote that I heard from some guys over at, I want to say Riverside County Sheriff's. They were like, "Oh, dude, you gotta aim into the future. Like, you gotta aim where the dude's going to be, and he's basically got to run into your projectile." So if you're in a gunfight and you think about like walking, right, you still have to hold in front of that person wherever they're going to be. That's where you're aiming, and they have to meet your projectile. Now, if you're sprinting, and if you're a dead sprint going from one barricade to the next, moving across the battlefield or the gunfight, there's a large gap that you have to lead, right? So your chances of success are extremely low. So I typed this up in a comment and I sent it back to him. I'm like, dude, this would be a sick conversation for us to have, right? So I put together a few slides on a picture format, just talking about one, human speed, and talking about coyote speed, because that is your area that you like to, kill stuff. So as far as movers go, like, even with these trained gunfighters that I'm with right now, like, we've been training together for 5 weeks. We've had a decent amount of mover training, and it's still fucking hard because not only do you have to calculate where that target's going to be, but now if you add wind into the mix,
it's tough because you don't have time to do math. You either are a gunfighter and you can do it because you know the calculation in your head, or you're going to miss because you don't have that time in a real gunfight to do the math, to look at your data sheet and be like, well, he's running 12 mile an hour. I can get this figured out real quick. So, that's what I find when I'm hunting coyotes is a walker, a coyote that's walking laterally is easy to shoot because they just pace. A coyote that's running, I typically know what my lead is because they run at they all run about the same damn speed. And it's easy to figure that out, what a full run-in speed coyote is, because they're usually between 60 and 100 yards. There's not much difference in dope. It's those lopers that are kind of that medium speed that always get me because I don't know how to judge them. So, and it's not because I don't know the math. I don't have that dope in my head. So for your guys, they don't have time to figure that shit out. Movers are hard. Yeah. Especially if you only train with, a mover that's doing 4 mile an hour and a mover that's moving 10 mile an hour. Oh, well, shit. What's the in between? What is it faster? What is it slower? And I saw some of the videos you post on Instagram. That's a pretty cool mover. That one looks like it dies when you hit it.
It dies if you hit it in a vital zone, right? So that's thing.
That's pretty cool.
If you just nick it, it just bobs and it keeps fucking going. Like,
yeah, it's crazy.
So you have to hit it in a vital zone for it to actually die. And, the other thing I love about that target, and if you're going to train movers on a realistic, scenario, like the mover that we have is not that sophisticated. Our mover is, out at Max Ordinate range is on a track and it just goes back and forth, left and right, but we can choose the target that we hang. And I like picking a 12-inch target because if you turn a person to the side, then, a person from chest to back is roughly 12 inches. So I go with the 12-inch target, but I hate seeing, guys practicing movers where it's a full-size IPSC and it's like, who the fuck you shooting at? Who's walking like this across the fucking battle space? Like, it's not realistic. Like, you got to be shooting a side profile. So one is there's a lot of cheat sheets out there where it'll tell you, like, at this distance, hold this, at this distance, hold that, at this distance, hold this. And that's just for one speed. Then you got to have a cheat sheet for the next speed and then the next speed and then the next speed. And it's like, you don't have to remember that many holds if you just hold from the center, right? And that's part of the conversation that I'll be bringing up is like, you see these cheat sheets out there where dudes are like from lead edge, and it's like, that's fucking dumb. That is the dumbest thing that you could do, is hold from lead edge, because as you get farther or closer to the target, the size of the target is going to change in angular units of measure, right? So I put that in the slideshow. So I'm just going to share this screen right now so we can kind of talk about it. The average speed from Google for a Coyote running, and you can probably share on this, Jeff, is 38 miles per hour. And
Oh, I wasn't even close. I was going to say 35.
I mean, that's not bad. It's but so top speed's 38 miles an hour, and it says anywhere from 35 to 40. So I kind of went in the middle. And then the trotting speed is somewhere around 15 to 20. So I picked 20 or 15 miles per hour. And then a human speed, top speed for most humans is around 15 miles per hour. And the jog is like 6 to 7, right? So now we have some references. And I like to talk about how you need to be familiar with what it is that you're hunting. If you're hunting people, if you are a military, if you're law enforcement, and that is your job, then you should know what a person walking looks like, right? The body movements of a person walking are different than a person jogging, right? Because now they're jogging, they got a little bit of bounce to them. If they're running, you know, their chest is a little leaning forward, their arms are pumping. If they're sprinting, then, you know, like everything is different. Same thing with a coyote or a deer or whatever it is that you are a hunter of. Like the way that they move should tell you how fast they're going. So you need to be.
Yeah, and there's a lot of cues. I think it's important. I like that you say that, because not a lot of people focus on knowing the, you know, we look at wind as, oh, the flags are at this angle and there's this much dust and the trees are doing this. So we look at all these cues to estimate wind, but we never really discuss the cues of what the body does to estimate speed.
100%. And that was one of the big things with the Marines, is I was like, we're not going to talk about these targets moving at a certain mile per hour anymore. Like that doesn't help you at all. We're going to talk about this person, this target's walking right now, or this person's jogging, this person's running, because you need to develop that shit in your mind of, oh, he's jogging, I know what to hold, right? So the long
and for me, it's pretty easy, because for me, coyotes really only have 3 speeds: walk, lope, or trot, or run. Like that's pretty much it. So it's pretty much fixed values. There's no real in between. Whereas for humans, you know, you need those cues. You got to see, you know, they have a lot of in betweens, but there's still only really 2 things. They're either walking or jogging or running.
Yeah. Yep. And you know, the hunting animal side of it's completely, I don't want to say completely different, but there's different techniques that you could do when hunting to prevent yourself from having to shoot a mover, you know, like make noise or do something to get that animal to stop where you have the opportunity to get shot. But if you're taking a mover shot, right? So we have, like, you can use technology. There's kestrels now. There are ballistic programs like Ballistic Arc, where they have movers programmed into them, and it'll do everything for you. It'll do the math. It'll do the wind adjustment for you, right? But if you're doing this by yourself, these are pre-planned. This is not something that you're sitting in your hide site, or you're sitting, you know, on top of the gas station looking at this guy, or you're waiting for this animal. Like, you're not doing this in the moment. These are pre-planned events. So you take the speed in miles per hour and you multiply by 1.47, which is a conversion to feet per second. Then you take your feet per second, you multiply by 12, so that we're converting to inches per second. And we're doing all of this conversions so that we can figure out what the mil or minute of angle lead is going to be, right? So now step 3, inches per second times your time of flight. So whatever distance that you're shooting, you need that time of flight, right? And the interesting part is your time of flight for 100, 200, 300, 400, it's all going to be different, right? It takes time for the projectile to get there. But guess what? Inside 400, your lead is not going to change. Exactly. Right? Because an angular unit of measure grows over distance. So as long as you are leading that target from the center, then your lead's going to be the same, right? So you
Same
take your
fucking lead.
exactly, you take your 308 and your lead at 100 yards is 1.8, and then at 300 yards it's 1.85, and it's like it's the same fucking lead. It's the same
Yeah,
lead,
and this is
right?
the problem when people don't do this and they go at 400 yards, I have a X amount of lead in a linear unit in feet or inches.
Yeah.
Doesn't work that way. If you do it in mils or minutes, the lead is the same.
Yeah. So now beyond 400, you'll start to see a little deviation because you got your projectile slowing down, you've got spin drift, you got other things coming into play, right? But inside 400, lead doesn't change, right? So you take your inches per second, step 3, times the time of flight equals the distance the target will travel during your time of flight. You take that number, divide by the distance mil value. So let's say we're doing the calculation for 200 yards. 1 mil at 300, or sorry, 1 mil at 100 is 3.6. So 1 mil at 200 is 7.2. So you would just divide by 7.2, and that would tell you what your lead in mils would be. All right. If you're shooting MOA, then you would do the same thing. You would just use the value of a minute at that distance, right? So that's the long formula. And these can be pre-planned so that the walking speed of a coyote, the trotting speed of a coyote, and the sprinting full on. Coyote is in hunting mode right now, and he is sprinting, right? And all of these are written down or memorized so that you don't have to think about it, right? Oh, I see the indicator that this subject is moving at this speed, and I'm going to hold this, right? So with humans, it's pretty simple. It's relatively easy because walking is approximately 3 miles an hour, jogging is 6 miles an hour, running is 9 miles an hour, and sprinting is roughly 12, right? Now you get some humans that are a little faster than others. They'll probably sprint at 15, maybe 20, depending on, maybe how drugged up they are. I guess it just depends, right?
Yeah.
But if a human running speed is 3, 6, 9, and 12, well, those are all even numbers. So if your lead for a walker is 1.8, then your lead for a jogger is going to be 3.6. It's literally that simple, right?
Yep.
So you look at the next slide here, got a coyote at 300 meters, 15 mile per hour coyote trot, right? You take that 15 miles an hour, you multiply by 1.47, it gives us 22 feet per second. We multiply that by 12, gives us 264 inches per second. Now, if it took our bullet 1 second to get there, then we wouldn't need to multiply by our time of flight. But because our projectile is getting there in 0.42, we have to do the math, right? So from muzzle to target, the coyote is going to move 111 inches. The value of a mil at 300 meters is 11.7 inches. So we do the math, 111 divided by 11.7, which tells us a 9.5 lead on a full 90-degree moving coyote in a trot. That would be what we would lead, right? Now, what's a half mil at 300 meters? It's roughly 4 inches. So I always ask the question of like, what if you just held 10 mils? If I held 10 mils, I'll be off by approximately half a mil. Would that one cause me to miss, right? Because now I'd be leading too much and not enough. Does that make sense? Like if I hold 10 mils, it's too much of a lead. If I hold 9 mils, it's not enough. So I run the risk of either missing just past its chest by holding 10 mils or missing on the trail end and hitting it somewhere in the gut. So the question is can I get away with rounding to a nearest whole mil that would make it easier to hold that lead? And really, I mean, I'm not a coyote hunter. So like, what is the kill zone that we have to work with on a coyote, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, realistically, it's about the size of your fist, right? So that's one of the things where you kind of need to know your game, whether you're hunting humans or you're hunting animals. Where, and I'll preface this whole thing by saying, as most hunters will say, like, we're not shooting moving animals, but we are shooting moving coyotes, and there's a difference, right? Like coyotes are my game, and I do treat them as such, but people aren't taking running or walking shots on deer, on large game. But when it comes to predators, you are taking moving shots. But typically they're all within, 100, 200 yards. My goal is to get a coyote within, shotgun face kicking range. So if I'm shooting one at 300, if I'm shooting one at 200, everything has failed already. And
Yeah.
now this is the Hail Mary, right? To try to end it. So at that point, it's about the size of your fist. You
Okay.
have a pretty narrow, a pretty short, uh, and when I say that, I mean, they're long, right? Coyote's about yay long, and you're still going to end up with a dead coyote, but you're going to either end up searching for him or he's going to run off and die somewhere. And then you got to decide, am I, is it a predation hunt or am I shooting for fur? Right.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm holding 9.5. I'm not gonna hold 10. I'm not gonna hold 9 because I want to recover that critter. Other people, their mileage may vary.
Yeah. No, that's a good point, man. Um, I did not realize it was is that small. I mean, you look at the size of a fist, right? We're talking like, depending on the fist, but 5 inches, right? So if
Yeah, I
you're
mean, so
half mil off,
here's
that's
yeah,
that's on one side or the other of that heart. It's
yeah. So here's a good example where I kind of tell people that want to go predator hunting is fox or bobcat, right? If you look at your house cat, if you have a really large house cat and that cat's sitting in front of you, how wide is that thing? Now how wide is that heart?
yeah,
And now think about if you shoot something like a bobcat or a fox, right? And you're off by 2 inches either side, one way or the other. They're very thin skinned. So now you've ruined the pelt because you just zippered him open and you exploded its gut out, or you shot it in the shoulder with a lightweight projectile, which splashed on its skin and you destroyed the pelt, but it also ran off. You never recovered it.
yeah.
So it really is a precision rifleman's game when it comes to predator hunting.
Okay. So then here's the short formula, right? 1 mile an hour equals zero point 0.6 mils. Now, this is not for every gun. This is not every caliber. This is for the 308 that I had just done the calculations for. So 15 miles per hour times 0.6. Now, I'm a simple guy, Jeff, right? I'm like 15 times 0.6. I don't know what the fuck that is, but I know what 10 times 0.6 is. That would be 6.0.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know what 5 times 0.6 is. That would be 3.0. So I add those together, I come out with 9 mils. So is it exact? No, it's not, right? But it's a short formula. And depending on the size of your kill zone, that will get you close enough to hit where you need to, right? If you're shooting people, the short formula will work because I have enough room to play inside that 12-inch kill zone to allow 9 mil lead to be effective. So, oh shit, how did I find that? Right? People are going to ask, well, how do you know if you have a 0.6 mile per hour gun or a 0.5? Right? It's easy. You do the long formula and you take the actual lead and you divide by the speed that you had calculated for, and it will tell you per mile per hour what mil do you need, right? So for this 308 175 grain moving roughly 2,600 feet per second, it's a 0.6 mil per mile per hour hold, right? So how can I use that? Well, if I have, say a human target and they're moving at between a jog and a run, let's say 7 miles an hour, I can do 7 times 6, which gives me 42, put my decimal in, 4.2 mil lead, and I'm ready to go. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So you can also do the short formula, right? And this one also works for speeds outside of your normal memory, right? So like we're shooting people, the Marines are, focused on walking, jogging, running, or sprinting speed. But what if we get a vehicle that we need to engage? Well, if that vehicle's moving at 25 miles an hour, we can still do the same math where 0.6 every mile per hour would give them a decent lead to start engaging that engine block or go for a lethal shot in the window. So
Correct.
now here is the part where, what happened? Okay, here's the part where holding lead edge versus center of the target. we want to hold center of the target and not lead edge because the size of the target will change. The goal is to hit center.
Yes.
That's the goal. The goal is not to hit the lead edge, right? So if I'm at, 300 yards, my vital zone of 12 inches is 4 MOA. So you split that in half, right? 4 MOA or 1.2 mils. That puts you at 2 MOA or 0.6. You have to calculate that into your lead. Now, if I'm at 100 yards, my vital zone is 3.6 mils or 12 MOA. So now I've got to factor in that half that vital zone of 6 MOA or 1.8 mils into my lead. And because you're including the target into your lead is going to change over distance, right? So there's too many variables. It's too many things to remember. Now you need a cheat sheet. Now you're slowing down the process. You're not a hunter. You're not a fucking killer of men. Like, you are a person who knows how to shoot a rifle and can read a fucking cheat sheet, right? But if you're going to be a hunter of gunmen, if you're going to be that fucking battle zone fucking warrior, then these are things that you should be ingrained, right? So simplicity is your friend here, right? So I put angular units of measure. It's simple, and don't be dumb. Okay.
Yeah, I think this goes back to one thing I like to do is I never like to mix angular measurements and linear measurements. So if I'm holding center, I'm holding center, and all my measurements are off of center, and all of my calculations are based off center. If I'm adding the size of the target to it, now I'm mixing a linear measurement into an angular measurement, and it's just too much math.
Yeah. Now, on top of that, Jeff, like, you were a cop, and I tell the Marines all the time, I'm like, in an urban environment where we're training to be right now, like, let's say you've got an enemy combatant who's on the left side of the road behind a building, and he's going to pop out and sprint his ass across the road. How much time do you have to look at your cheat sheet and make a decision on what to hold before he's fucking gone? You know?
Exactly.
Or you got a suspect, you're a cop and you're a sniper, and you got a suspect who's in the house. He comes barreling out the door, beelines it left, and he's going to take another left and go down the alley, and you're never going to see this fool again. How much time do you have to make this decision? You don't, right? So you should be training to a standard, and that standard should be memorizing what those 4 leads are and knowing that if they come out of the house with a certain body posture, that you're going to hold this, right? So here is that example I was telling you about. 12-inch target at 100 yards, right? 12 MOA from left side to right side, 12 MOA or 3.6 mils. So if this 12-inch target, Jeff, is walking at 100 yards, all I have to do is hold lead edge, right? That's 1.8 mils. That is my lead.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I go to 300 yards, I take the same size target, 12 inches. Now it's only 1.2 mils wide or 4 MOA. If I hold lead edge on this target, I'm going to miss behind it if it's moving at that walking speed, because it's no longer 3.6 mils wide, right?
Yep.
And that's where the problem comes in. And here is my example of a cheat sheet I pulled off of an Instagram account. I think it was LA Snipers or something like that. Louisiana
I've seen that
Snipers.
cheat sheet before, and it gives me anxiety.
Exactly. So you look at over here, you got your range. Okay. And then let's just go to the walk 3 miles per hour MOA, right? If they're at 100, 1.75. If they're at 200, now it's 4 minutes. If they're at 300, now it's 4 3/4. Like, there's no consistency at all. If you did this from center of the target all the way from, where'd it go? All the way from 25 to 400 would be the same lead. You wouldn't have to
Same
change
fucking
anything.
number.
You wouldn't have to change anything, right? It would just be like, oh, guy walking, boom, let me shoot, right? And same
Yep.
thing for running over here, 6 miles an hour. Everything from here down to 400 would be the same. So, one, shooting movers is not easy, right? So you need to have the most simplistic way of engaging that target, where you have to think less and act more on training and habits, right? What is that age old saying, Jeff, where it's like, we don't rise to the occasion, but we fall back to our highest level of training. And
Yep.
that's this right here, right? If you just live off of your cheat sheets, then you will never be better than that, right? The time it takes you to read.
The problem you'll run into, the problem that people run into is they train to a standard of excelling at training, right? They win at practice. They are winning at the range. And so if you have all the time in the world to do these calculations and look at your cheat sheet and you can be like, okay, go, then yeah, you're a phenomenal trigger puller and math guy, right? But that doesn't make you a gunfighter. You need to train to a standard of how it's going to be realistically applied in the real world. And just looking at cheat sheets and doing math for winning at practice is never going to get you better.
Yeah, no, 100%, dude. So the last thing I'm going to share before we bust out of here is going to be what our latest social media post was. All right, so here is the Max Ordinate Instagram page. Okay, you got I just posted this today. Here we go. So homeboy's running up to his position. This is a new mover qual that we're working on for a one shot, one kill. But you got this target. So what they do is they engage this target. And if they miss, then it starts moving. And then you get an opportunity to engage it again. You actually get 10 rounds. So the reason I posted this guy is, guys would come up to their position and they have 60 seconds to set their tripod up and get into a kneeling position, aim in at the target. And if it takes them longer than 60 seconds, then the target just starts moving. But if they can get set up and on target, then they get an opportunity to shoot at this target before it moves. Nobody hit the target first round. I was actually very disappointed. I'm like, he's fucking standing still. Like, how do we miss?
It's not moving.
It's standing still, right? Maybe they all just wanted to be challenged. I don't fucking know. So the target starts moving and Bill pops off his second shot and he hits it. The only guy to hit it second round. Everybody else on average was taking 5 to 6 rounds to finally knock this mover down, right? And you think about the position that they're in, right? And if you're a right-handed shooter, it's actually a little more challenging to rotate to the right because you and the rifle are kind of working against each other. Whereas if you're aiming to the left, it's a lot easier to pivot. So some of the lefties kind of had an advantage in that scenario, but that target was at 350 meters, maybe maximum, probably more like 330. And it was at a half angle. So when we're talking about angles, like let's just say for ease of math, right? 350, we're holding 1.8. Now, what else do we have going on? Well, it's moving at a half value. It's not moving directly linear or perpendicular to your position. It's moving at a 45. So now you got to cut that in half. So now it's 0.9. Now the wind is blowing right to left and it's 8 miles an hour. So now we got a 0.6 mil wind call. So because the target is moving into the wind is hurting you. So you got to take your lead of 0.9 mils and you got to add it to your wind of 0.6. So you're going to be roughly 1.5 mils. But you got to do all of this in your head either before the target started moving or while the target is moving. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, that's why movers is not trained enough, because it's just not ingrained into your head as much as like, oh, look, there's that static steel target out there. I'm going to make my wind call and shoot. Like, movers don't give you that time to sit there and like think about what you're doing.
Yeah. And to be fair, movers are just flat out hard, right? So we talk about, going to the range and training and doing whatever you're doing and getting better at what you're doing. But like, it's almost hard to convince somebody to train movers when, it's hard enough to convince them just to go train properly to shoot a static target sometimes. So, it's movers are just hard, right? I know you're struggling at the range today and I know you're working on this, but hey, let's go shoot some movers. No, like, I don't wanna, but yeah, it needs to be
this
trained
whole
more.
topic that we've been talking about is only the math portion. Then you've got actual
Yeah.
like, being stable, traversing. Are you going to ambush the target? You're going to track it. You're going to do both. Like, there's so much that goes into this. So
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny you said that the right-handers were at a disadvantage because when I set up, if I'm setting up at a seated tripod position, during the day for coyotes, I set as a standard. I set to my extreme right, and then I move over into position to the left, so I know I have my range because I've been caught with my pants down plenty of times, set up, having to move to the right, and I don't have the body position to do it, and missed fucking coyotes. So,
and you know what? It's if you haven't been told or explained why, it's those hard lessons that will teach you like fuck.
yep.
So
There's nothing worse than being set up here and having two coyotes staring at you from 40 yards away and you can't shoot them because if you move, they're gone, and we just look at each other and then they're gone.
damn it, man. Well,
Well,
anyways,
that's awesome. I'm glad we talked about movers. I haven't trained movers in a while. Maybe it's when I actually get my ass out there, maybe we'll go shoot movers when you're down here.
dude, absolutely. Well, awesome, man. It was a great conversation. I thought it fit well with what I saw on social media in terms of that cheat sheet and what we've been doing for the Urban Sniper course. And I figured it was time we just brought it out and said, hey, this is the way that it should be done, and here is why, right? So, all right, man. Well, it is almost time for me to get to work. It's 6:30 in the morning right now, and it's going to be another fun-filled day of movers and tripods and all kinds of putting lead into dirt because we can't seem to put it into the targets.
How many days you have left on this class?
2 training days, 1 graduation day.
All right, awesome.
And that's it. And then it's on an airplane on Saturday. So fly Saturday and land Saturday, right? I'm actually traveling back in time. It's kind of weird, but then
time traveling.
You think that you gain time, but then in reality, like if I have to come back here, then I just lose that day all over again. So it's just it's a vicious cycle.
You're just borrowing time. You have to give it back when you return.
I know. That's right. That's right. All right, brother. Hey, well, it was good talking to you. I'll get this episode published and I will chat with you in a couple days.
All right, brother. We'll talk soon.
All right, man. See you.
Peace.